It's behind the scenes. This is episode 129, and we just finished up on the weather. We were talking about the weather.
The weather.
You can see my Washington football team jersey here because Washington's playing. We're going to lose to the Buccaneers in the playoffs tonight. We're a terrible, terrible football team and somehow managed to make the playoffs anyway. But anyway, so Rex and I were talking about using weather in our stories, and we started to get kind of detailed here toward the end. What is your favorite, in the stories that you've written, what is your favorite use of weather that you have been able to accomplish?
Actually, it's been in my science fiction ones where the weather, the weather severely impacts the person and they're having to fight against it. Describing what the details of what are like are on different planets.
Yeah.
And I take it all from actual science. You know, one thing appears to the other. The atmosphere, like two planets in circular orbit, will cause each other's atmosphere to shift radically at different times of the year. I mean, to the point where you can't have any life on there whatsoever. Yet they still colonize it somehow, that sort of thing. And how they would go about it. So, I mean, I just find that interesting.
It sounds interesting to me.
Yeah.
So I haven't read a lot of science fiction. I don't read a lot of science fiction. But I also don't, I'm not a huge nature person. Like I don't spend a lot of time out in nature. We don't do like hiking and camping and things like that. My favorite nature is to sit on a patio and drink. So when I think about like how does the weather enable things or prevent things, it's mostly associated with going places. So can we go to an outdoor concert? Can we go to a football game? Can we go to like, and so I always think of it as like part of the travel experience. And I think mostly when people get off the plane, a lot of what's happening in before Pittsburgh and after December is Brian traveling. And so when he gets off the plane, that immediate shift in what is the weather like in Barcelona versus what's the weather like in, DC. There's a way to change the environment by giving the weather a particular thing. And I mentioned this in the show notes, but I didn't say it on the radio. I have written a book of 3 years of Brian living in California, and he has not yet experienced an earthquake. So I might need to revisit that. I think natural phenomenon might be something we should think about. Hurricanes are a staple in South Carolina. Snowstorms, in places like Maine and New York. So are these sort of natural phenomena the things that people get used to? How do they get used to them? And does the character develop certain kinds of coping skills because they're used to this kind of thing?
Well, you get the coping skills by everyone else. But it always adds in interesting details. Like in the mornings in Buffalo, New York, after, you'll find everyone out there scraping away at their windshields. Yeah. Like it's an Olympic sport. Synchronized scraping.
Yeah. Well, so, and to put that in perspective, do any of our South Carolina listeners even own a scraper for their windshield? Oh, yeah. I mean, because if you just heat the car up within about 30 seconds or so, whatever ice is on your windshield is probably going to melt down here.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
Or have it lock de-icer.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, we park in the garage, so I don't have any of those things.
But that used to be essential, man. You can't go anywhere there. You lock the icer.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you can't get in.
When we were traveling back and forth to Maine, one of the guys he was a Hilton Diamond member. Like he had so many Hilton points, he was like at the highest level of Hilton points. And he used to joke with the people at Hilton that being a Diamond member was worthless in Maine unless you could get somebody out there to heat up your rental car for you. All right. That was a South Carolina guy, by the way, Puerto Rican by birth, but then he was living in South Carolina and going up to Maine. It was so cold. Okay. Thank you for being patrons. Thanks for being with us. Hopefully this behind the scenes was amusing, if not tremendously helpful. We appreciate you always. Take care of yourselves and enjoy the rest of your weekend.